Ancient humans never had Mondays. So why did we invent them? You wake up. It's Monday. Your alarm went off 20 minutes ago, but you've been lying there staring at the ceiling, already exhausted, already counting down the hours until Friday. You have a job. You have a schedule. You have places to be and people to answer to. And somewhere deep in your chest, there's this feeling. Like you weren't built for this. Here's the thing. You weren't. For 300,000 years, your ancestors woke up every single morning with zero obligations. No alarm. No boss. No deadline. The sun came up, they opened their eyes, and the very first question of the day was genuinely, honestly, completely open. What do I feel like doing today? And here's the part that should actually bother you. They were fine. Better than fine. Their bones were stronger. Their bodies were healthier. Less stress, more sleep, more time spent with people they actually liked. By almost every biological measure, they were thriving. So at some point, something went wrong. Not for them. For us. Because somewhere along the way, humans sat down together and collectively decided to invent Monday. And nobody, not a single person, stopped them. Let's figure out exactly how that happened. Start with a number. 17. That's how many hours per week the Hawansi people of Botswana spend getting food. Anthropologist Richard Lee tracked this back in 1963. Adults worked roughly 2.5 days a week. Everything else was free time. And this wasn't some special tribe living in some kind of paradise. The Hadza in Tanzania. The Ache in Paraguay. The Matu in Australia. Different continents. Completely different climates. Same result every single time. About 15 to 20 hours per week on actual survival activities. You probably work 40. Maybe more. Now some people hear this and immediately think, okay, but they were just barely surviving, stressed about predators and starvation every single day. And that sounds logical. Except the bones completely disagree. When archaeologists compare ancient human skeletons to early farming populations, the difference is genuinely shocking. Farmers were shorter. Their spines showed damage from repetitive labor. Their teeth were wrecked from grain-heavy diets. They died younger. Ancient hunter-gatherers? Taller. Stronger joints. Better teeth. Way less skeletal damage. Their bodies weren't breaking down from overwork. They were doing less than the people who came after them. A lot less. And then there's the evidence nobody expected to find. In 1994, explorers squeezed through a narrow crack in a cliff in southern France and found themselves inside Chauvet Cave. On the walls were paintings. Horses. Lions. Rhinoceroses. Drawn with real perspective, real shading, real movement. Created 30,000 years ago. These weren't panic scribbles. This was deliberate, skilled, time-consuming art. Someone carried fire deep into a dark cave and spent hours, maybe actual days, making something beautiful. Not for food. Not for survival. Just for beauty. In South Africa, researchers found 100,000-year-old shell beads. Tiny holes drilled through seashells, clearly meant to be strung together and worn. The nearest coastline was 20 kilometers away. Someone walked 40 kilometers round trip just to collect shells. Then sat down and carefully drilled holes through each one with stone tools. Just to look good. In Germany, a 40,000-year-old flute carved from vulture bone. 5-finger holes, perfectly spaced. Whoever made this understood music. They understood pitch. They spent serious time on this. Not because it kept them alive. Because it made life feel worth living. This is what humans do when they actually have time. They create. They decorate. They make things with zero survival value whatsoever. And for 99% of human history, they had more than enough time to do exactly that. So what did a full day actually look like? You wake up around dawn. Last night's fire is still going. Someone throws on more wood. You eat. Breakfast is slow and social. People talk, not to coordinate tasks, just because that's what humans naturally do in the morning. Around mid-morning, a small group might head out to hunt or gather. But not every single day. If the hunt 2 days ago went well and there's food stored, nobody really has to go anywhere. If hunting does happen, it's not frantic or desperate. Humans are persistence hunters. We track animals at a steady jog for 3, 4, sometimes 6 hours. We sweat. The animal can't cool itself down while running. Eventually, it overheats and collapses. We walk up and finish it. Then carry it back to camp. Everyone eats. By early afternoon, the productive part of the day is basically over. And then comes the part that modern people find genuinely difficult to process. Nothing. Everything. Rest. People sit in the shade. They talk. They play with kids. They groom each other, not just for hygiene but for connection, reinforcing bonds. They make jewelry. They carve patterns into bones. They nap without guilt. Anthropologist James Woodburn documented that among the Juahoansi, adults spend roughly 6 hours per day in what he called social time. Not working. Not sleeping. Just being with other people. Laughing. Telling stories. Being comfortably bored. And this wasn't laziness. In a world with no money, no contracts, no legal system, your survival depends entirely on your relationships. If people don't like you, they don't share food when you're hungry. So you invest time in those bonds the same way you'd invest in any critical resource. Because honestly, they are a critical resource. Then the sun sets. And this is where it gets interesting. In 2014, anthropologist Polly Wiesner analyzed hundreds of hours of recorded conversations from the Juahoansi. During the day, conversations were practical. Who saw animal tracks where? Which plants were ready to harvest? Complaints about someone not pulling their weight. But at night, around the fire, 81% of conversations shifted completely. Myths about how the world began. Stories about ancestors who did impossible things. Jokes that made everyone lose it. Adventures from places nobody in the group had ever actually been. Wiesner argued this is where human culture was genuinely born. Gods, spirits, morality, identity, things you can only really think about when your stomach is full and you feel safe. And they didn't sleep the way you do either. Before artificial light existed, humans slept in 2 separate phases. First sleep, around 4 hours. Then a wakeful period of 1 to 2 hours in complete darkness, used for quiet reflection, conversation, sometimes just lying there thinking. Then second sleep, another 4 hours. Waking up at 2 a.m. wasn't insomnia. That was just the schedule. That was normal. So here's the full picture of an ancient human day. 4 to 6 hours of food and tool work. 6 hours of social time. 8 hours of sleep in 2 phases. And the rest, sitting, watching, thinking, existing without needing to explain yourself to anyone. That was the human day. For 300,000 years. Then, about 10,000 years ago, someone in the Fertile Crescent pushed a seed into the ground. Agriculture. And it sounds like obvious progress. You could feed more people. Populations grew. Settlements formed. Civilization started. But here's what nobody really tells you about farming. It's a trap. Once you start, you genuinely cannot stop. And farming was hard in a way hunting and gathering never really was. Plowing, planting, weeding, watering, harvesting, storing, defending your crops from animals, insects, weather, and other humans who wanted exactly what you had. The skeletal record on this is completely unambiguous. Early farmers work harder, ate a narrower and less nutritious diet, developed more repetitive strain injuries, and died younger than the hunter-gatherers who came before them. They traded freedom for food security. And biologically, they got the worse end of that deal by a significant margin. But the population kept growing anyway. And larger populations needed organization, which meant specialists, toolmakers, potters, traders, then soldiers to protect the settlement, then priests to explain why the harvest failed and what the gods wanted, then administrators to manage the soldiers and the priests, then someone to manage the administrators. And at some point in all of this complexity, somebody looked around and said, we need a system, a schedule, a way to organize time so all these moving parts actually work together. And just like that, the concept of work was invented. Not labor. Humans had always done labor. But work as in your time belongs to someone else. You show up. You do what you're told. You receive resources in return. Employment. The job. The thing that now eats 1/3 of your entire waking life. Monday was born. And it never left. Here's where it all lands. You have the exact same brain your ancestors had 300,000 years ago. Literally the same hardware. The same need for sleep, for real social connection, for unstructured rest, for creativity, for time that belongs to absolutely nobody but you. Evolution doesn't move anywhere near fast enough to keep up with civilization. Your nervous system was calibrated for 17 hours of work per week and 6 hours of sitting around a fire talking to people you actually care about. Instead, you get 40 hours minimum, a screen, and a commute. You call it insomnia when you wake up at 2 a.m. Your ancestors called that the quiet hours. Time for thinking. You feel guilty doing nothing on a Sunday afternoon. Your ancestors built entire cultures during exactly that kind of afternoon. You spend your whole life working toward retirement, toward finally having time to rest, to travel, to make things, to just exist. Your ancestors did all of that on a random Tuesday. Monday wasn't always inevitable. It was invented. Slowly, accidentally, through a series of decisions that each made complete sense at the time and collectively built a world your body was never designed to live in. You weren't built for Mondays. That's not nostalgia. That's just you. The original version. If this made you think about something differently, leave a comment below. Seriously curious what you think about this one. And if you want more videos like this, subscribe. New ones coming soon.